Welcome everyone who's here now and who's listening to the recording. My name is Lev Natan. I'm the founder and executive director of Alliance for a Viable Future. We got started in 2018, and then in 2020 started doing programs in the community. So I'll share more about that as we get going, but I'm really grateful to be here for this Zoom intro call for the Deep Roots 2026 cohort, Regenerative Leadership for Changemakers in the Northeast Bioregion. And it's really about how do we energize our bioregional movements for regenerative solutions here in the Northeast, but really thinking about anywhere anyone lives. These are principles that apply. So to get started, I'm going to share the first 3 minutes of the video that is on our website introducing the cohort program. And then I have a slideshow that we're going to watch after that. So I'm going to just do a sound check and see if you can hear this. Let me know.
It's been way deeper than I expected, to be honest, as an activist.
Can everyone hear that?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, now I'll do full screen. So we're going to watch the first 3 minutes, and then if it piques your interest, you can watch the rest.
It's been way deeper than I expected, to be honest, as an activist, kind of coming from that field, burning out. I said to Lev, I'm already burned out, I don't need another project. But somehow this has been different.
If you're working in the local area, if you care about the Berkshires, if you want to have a bigger impact, this is an amazing opportunity.
So I think what's been super helpful are some of the frameworks and the resources, like the literal maps.
We're all facing the fact that the Earth's systems are changing dramatically right now.
Every place has a unique history, a rich story that is unfolding, and by being here right now, you are part of the story of this place.
This is ancient wisdom at work. This is the stuff that we're supposed to do when we have issues, when we have things to overcome.
There's a lot of science-based work going on around the climate crisis that we're in. What it feels like this group is doing is actually kind of revisiting what's going to motivate the level of transformation that we know is needed. And it's not necessarily going to come from just an intellectual idea of parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. We have to kind of let go of that type of knowing to get at a more primal, more grounded sense to know something deeper in our bodies that can actually help us motivate for the level of transformation that's required.
So if we were to organize all of the regenerative projects within a landscape into a tapestry of collaboration, then we would begin regenerating that landscape. And if this is happening in multiple landscapes that are connected through planetary processes, then we begin to restore planetary processes.
What's been most valuable to me is just the fellowship, to get to know people who are all striving towards a similar goal in terms of creating a future that's, respectful of the environment and is a good place for our children.
It's the question of what is the future going to look like for my children, for the children in my neighborhood.
The ideas that I hear and the exchanges that I've had are ones that I don't think I would hear anywhere else.
There's no algorithm that would put this group together. The commonality is that everybody really, really cares.
What I like about this approach is that it's local, it's regional, it's grassroots, and I think that's the way forward when we're talking about remembering how to be caretakers of our lands and work in collaboration with the more than human world again. I kind of think of our local relationships in the region.
Okay. So that's the first 3 minutes. It's 9 minutes long, that video. So that's a nice introduction in there. And now we're gonna kind of get into some of the details. Um, so first of all, I want to say thank you again to each of you is here, and then those that are watching the recording. Welcome. I want you to feel welcome, and I want to say thank you for caring about this work. Everything in your life that has got you to be interested in being a change maker, a caretaker of life, concerned, caring for the future of our communities, our region, our planet. This is, in my sense of it, the most important work that exists in the world today. It's kind of the only thing that exists. If we're not taking care of life in this day and age, then what are we doing? We're not focused on what's actually going on. So why are we here today? That's why. How do we energize our regenerative bioregional climate movements? And here in the bottom, these are kind of notes for me, that says we are immersed in the poly crisis at this point, 2025, going into 2026, right? We're not waiting for it to happen in the future. We're in it fully. We've cannonballed into the pool. It was a big splash, and here we are in the poly crisis, the convergent crises all around the planet, and we're feeling it here. I live in the Berkshires, and I know Mark lives in Boston, and so throughout the Northeast, we're feeling the global convergent crises. We used to focus on the word climate, and certainly that is one of the main things that we work on. But there are now 9 different indicators of breakdown that are, or thresholds of breakdown, climate being one of them. And Joe Brewer, who was featured in that video, is really an expert on those 9 thresholds. He gave a talk as a guest faculty in our program. But we're feeling it, right? The drought that we experienced here in the Northeast over the last number of years, the change in the seasons, the winters where we've had rain in January for 2 or 3 years. That's not what I experienced when I was young. And certainly if you go far enough back, right, that's not how the winters have been in the Northeast. And then, of course, the socio-political and economic turbulence, authoritarianism, here in this country and around the world. It's a factor. It's both the reason that we're in this situation, and it's also catalyzed by the crises that we're in. And I just want to say, last November 17th, when I gave this introductory talk for last year's cohort program, literally 5 minutes before it started, my wife called me from the Berkshire Food Co-op where Karen said she found that postcard, and she said she was looking at smoke billowing up from the top of a mountain. You know, there was a forest fire that had started and continued for probably a week after that, and that's new here in the Berkshires to have forest fires locally. So it was very poignant last year, right before I was, sharing about this work, to say, wow, yes, we really need to come together in a big way to do this. So one of the key, and for me, organizing inspirational frameworks, in a sense, where this work comes from is thinking about the wisdom of old growth forests. And so the question becomes, what if we build relationships and networks like an old growth forest? That's the wonder that we can bring to it, the curiosity. What would that look like? What would that mean? And that's what I've been asking for the last 20 years, that question. And in a sense, this is a response to it. So over the last 2 years, we launched this year-long cohort program. And again, it was called the Climate Leadership Cohort Program the last 2 years. And then as we've really experienced it, uh, it's more holistic than that. And so it wasn't capturing the full energy of what we're doing together. So the name has evolved this year to Deep Roots, Regenerative Leadership for Changemakers in the Northeast Bioregion. But it's the same program that's now finding its accurate language to describe it. So these are some of the organizations and businesses that have participated over the last 2 years. And then there's also community elders that have been involved and community change makers who aren't associated with a organization or business that has a brand. But these are the main organizations that have been involved and been supporting and been connected to this work. So it's a growing network already, which is really inspiring to me and exciting. And so now we're at a place where we're inviting you to connect with, why are you here? And I think each one of us has a particular calling that brings us to sit in a circle like this. And so I want to invite you, if you want to take a moment, you can close your eyes. I like to do that a lot. And we do that at the beginning of our circles in our community of practice. So if you'd like to close your eyes or just shift your focus internally, if you're listening to the recording and driving, then obviously please don't close your eyes, but shift your attention to your heart, your breath, your body. If you need to twist your neck, your shoulders, whatever you need to do to slow down and be present with yourself. Connecting to your heart and your soul and that deep voice of guidance within you that sometimes is hard to hear with all the hustle and bustle of life. But the whole purpose of this work is to listen deeply to that voice. And there's an intuition that I'm following that when we listen to that voice, good things unfold from there. So just tuning in to the whole journey of your life from way back when you were first born, and just feeling the deep thread of guidance, of connection to things in your life that have been deeply meaningful to you, conversations, journeys, traveling, relationships, ideas, things that have connected you to that sense that life is deeply meaningful, the earth is deeply intelligent and conscious, and that despite all odds, all the evidence to the contrary, life is going to continue on this planet, human life, and all of the web of life. There's an impulse of creativity that is figuring it out as we go. So connecting to that sense of knowing that even if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't all add up, that you and me were part of that feeling that says we're not going to give up. We're going to work towards a conscious, intentional, sacred way of life, and to pass that down, pass that on to the younger generations, to make it good for them. And we're going to build these relationships and networks that enable, that allow, that empower this kind of living partnership culture to continue. We're going to put wood on that fire, keep tending it so the flames are bright, so there's inspiration. Again, despite all the odds. So thank you for taking that moment to connecting your own journey, your own story with what's happening here. That's how it's going to be strong, by each one of us bringing all of who we are into this work. And I'd love if you'd want to write something in the chat. What is calling you to be here? What is calling you to be here? You can say it in any way you'd like, but one option is to say, I see a future where. I see a future where. I wrote, I see a future where we are doing precisely what we need to be doing in every sector of society, in coordination and partnership, like birds in formation, so that when my son is 30 years old in 2050, we all feel at ease because we've created the mycelial network of relationships with one another that will allow our children to thrive. So feel free to, as you're inspired, to write what your version is. I see a future where, and I can come back and read them. And again, we can't do it alone. The path of following your calling naturally leads to co-creating within a supportive community of practice. my belief is the way forward is in circles, supporting one another. And the work that we're doing in these circles is about building a conversation that will stand the test of time. I had a mentor named Mel Toomey in my graduate school program in organizational leadership. I think of him kind of like Yoda in Star Wars. He was that kind of a wise elder. And he said, if you want to build a conversation that will last over time, you have to build it like a house with a foundation, pour that concrete. I'm actually building a house right now for our family. So it's been a journey this year that I've been connected to. So a conversation is like that also. To build a conversation, it needs to be thought through and built like a house, like a building. And to do that, we use frameworks that we naturally see in nature, nature-based frameworks, holistic mind-body intelligence, heart intelligence. So bringing all of our intelligence together is what is going to get us through this. Acknowledging that we're all part of a journey of human development that's personal, deeply, deeply personal, and is also universal. There's a journey of initiation that has been mapped. Some, you've maybe heard about the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's work. So that's one version of that map, but ancient cultures have known about those archetypes of initiation for generations. And it's something that we need to remember again. And then the wisdom of circles, as I mentioned. And then mycelial movement theory that's rooted in systems thinking and coalition building. So again, just going a little deeper into each of these frameworks, we need to utilize our strategic left brain thinking to be part of this world. Absolutely. And as we've seen, we're not going to get out of the situation that we're in by only thinking rationally. We need to open up and access the deeper dimensions of our intelligence as human beings and supernatural beings. All of our capacities. Thomas Berry, one of the inspiring thought leaders that I have been deeply influenced by, spoke about the shamanic psyche as a way of connecting to the creative, visionary mindset that we need to be engaged with in order to have the inspiration to move forward. So that involves honoring our core essence. Each one of us has a core essence, what is ours to be. And through that being, then the doing and the having take care of themselves. And that involves our deep feelings, our intuition, our real human need for belonging, for trust, for relationship, and then mobilizing the courage to stretch and grow into our calling. So initiation is something that happens over and over in life. I've gone through many initiations. Some of those were kind of official, you could say, ceremonial initiations in the sweat lodge and the Sundance ceremony, in other ceremonies that I've participated in. And then there's also just the ceremony of life that brings us through thresholds. And how do we do in those when we have community, when we have a community of support like this over the course of a year? First of all, it gives us a space to recognize that that has happened to us already in our life. And to then, in that recognition, in that remembering, in that reflection process, all of those past initiations become more alive and are renewed as meaningful. And all the energy from those initiations are reactivated. And then there's then a container for the next level, because we're always growing. One of my Tai Chi teacher, his teacher used to say, don't ever call me master. Only call me master once I'm dead. What he was saying is, I'm always learning. I'm always growing. I might look like I know everything, but I don't. And if I think that I know everything, that's when I've stumbled and fallen. To be in a process of mastery is a process of the beginner's mind, always being present to learning and growing. And so that's what this personal and universal journey of initiation is. It's personal. In other words, each one of us, it has a unique journey, and it's nothing like anyone else, right? Each snowflake, right? Mel, again, he used to say, your journey of leadership, your expression of leadership is a unique expression. He said, leadership, a true leader is not following a script, right? It's a true expression of unique creativity. And so that is what is personal and specific about each of us, about you. And in that specificity, it becomes a universal archetype, right? That we can relate to each other, we can support each other and say, wow, we're all on this journey together, and we can create a pathway together where we're ready to be initiated, self-initiated into the next level of our leadership, of our presence in this world, in the community, in your family, in your work. It's all one thing. How you show up, where how you are in one place is how you are in all places. So that's how we're seeing it. It's the personal and the professional are integrated here in this work that we're doing here. And in that sense, there's also this personal and collective planetary journey of initiation. Some of the key thinkers that influence this work, Jose Argoyas, again, Thomas Berry, Teilhard de Chardin, the list goes on, but they're talking about what's happening now on this planet, not as a mistake. And the ancestors from all around the world, the traditional cultures from around the world, indigenous people, religious wisdom, spiritual, ancestral wisdom, traditions, all said, hey, this time right now, there's something happening on this planet. And in my mind and in my heart, it would be foolish to ignore that there's a pattern that we can see, a quickening of the turbulence, of the chaos, of the nonsensical insanity that's here. But at the same time, there's also a deep wisdom that is unfolding right now. And that's this invitation. It's a privilege. It's a opportunity and a responsibility to say, I'm alive right now on this planet, and I'm part of a human family that is responsible for life on this planet right now. All of the millions and billions of years of evolution on this planet has come to this moment here where we can care. My teacher, Hawk's brother, shared the original instructions with me of indigenous people. It's very simple. Number one, to be grateful for everything that has come before, everything that has come before us, all of life that has taken billions of years to evolve to get to this moment here where life on this planet is in this threshold place. And it truly is up to us how it's gonna unfold from here. And so that's a deeply personal response. How am I going to respond? How are you going to respond? And then together, there's this very powerful way that we can join together and embrace the journey. And there's a lot of teachings already that exist um, that we can call upon to come together in this way. And the wisdom of circles is one of those ways. One of those ways that we can come together and respond to what's happening in this world. So here are some of the elders that I draw wisdom from and bring their work into our circles, both explicitly and as well just their presence through the holding of the circle. Margaret Wheatley, David Nickel, Jala Jabanheim, and there's many other teachings about the power of circles. This is our simple, elegant framework that we use over the course of the year to the point where towards the end of the year, you can begin to facilitate circles yourself. We start with centering practice like we did today. And then we always share gratitude. And then we open into what is the vision that we're focused on, that we're moving towards. And then from that vision, action naturally emerges. And then we always end our circles with inspiration so that we have energy moving forward. It's not about meeting together and doing what needs to get done in the narrow sense, where we need to be energized and inspired when we come together so that we can move forward and be excited about life despite all the odds. And then there's also, I think in some ways, this is the most important part, because we have to have a sense that it's practical, that coming together and doing the work, that there is uh, there is a way that it can work. It can work, and it's not pie in the sky. Although it is a paradox, because at the same time, with everything that's going on, it does seem like it's pie in the sky. Maybe we should all just give up. But Buckminster Fuller, I can really resonate with his life. When he was 27 years old, I heard Lynn Twist, a wonderful fundraiser for inspiring organizations. She wrote the book, The Soul of Money. I have it here on my bookshelf. She told a story. He was a mentor to her, uh, and she told a story that when he was 27 years old, he was standing on the banks of the Housatonic. Oh no, not the Housatonic, the Hudson River. I live next to the Housatonic River. He was standing next to the Hudson River, and he was gonna throw himself in the river and allow himself to drown. That's where his mind was at. He didn't think his life had meaning. And right when he was about to do that, he heard a voice that said, well, you could do that, or you could just give your life to me, to that voice. And that voice was a greater, a greater being, a greater intelligence to be of service to. And lo and behold, he did follow that guidance, and he gave his life to be of service. And we know a lot of what happened after that. He is an incredible mind and inspiration, what he's created. And one of the things that he did is he created an idea, a theory that if you want to influence a population, you need to focus on the square root of the total population. My mentor, Kathleen Allen, shared this theory with me. And I thought it was very inspiring because it took these big problems and allowed me to focus on something that was tangible. So if we look at the population of Berkshire County, this was at least last year, so it's something around this 129, 130,000 people. The square root is 360 people. So if we had a network in the Berkshires of 360 people, there would be a ripple effect that was palpable through the whole region, through the whole county. In the same way, throughout New England, 15 million people, it's only about 4,000 people that need to be connected and in a conversation, the kind of conversation that I was talking to you about, a conversation that's like a house that has structure to create the ripple that's necessary, like the mycelium in the forest. And of course, Margaret Mead agreed with that as well. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And there's also the theory from Erica Chenoweth, who did her research at Harvard. She has a TED Talk that you can look up, very inspiring, where she researched global movements for peace and nonviolence in response to authoritarian regimes. So that's a specific kind of research of movements, and it's certainly very relevant here in our current circumstance, I would say, as well. She saw in her research over 100 years, from 1900 to 2000, so 100 years of researching authoritarian regimes, and specifically regimes that were overthrown by nonviolence, nonviolent resistance movements. It was only 3.5% of the population that participated in the movements. 3.5%. So again, if we go back to Berkshire County, that's 4,500 people, or 500,000 people in New England. So the square root of the total is a smaller number. So by focusing on the core network, getting to this kind of critical mass number of quality relationships, people that really get to know each other and have a sense of trust and a code of conduct and respect around how they conduct themselves and the values that they uphold. That can very easily, if you think about each of you, the networks that you're connected with, how that 360 people can turn into 4,500 people pretty quickly. So again, these are some of the kind of scratch in my head, being curious about the answer to this question. What if we build relationships and networks like an old growth forest? That's what this is all about. Circles. All of these frameworks are the response that came to me, and other people have had these ideas as well. The collective impact framework is another framework that we utilize and think about to bring people together around complex issues, bioregional issues. It's not a single solution that's going to get us into the future. It's a ecosystem of changes that are necessary. And that's why we're very focused in our conversations in our circle about whole systems design, that it's not just climate as a issue, the environment. It's all hands on deck. Every aspect of society is invited and is needed to do this work. So that's how I see it, as when we come together in these circles, it's like the deep roots of the old growth trees in the forest who are literally holding each other through the root systems. That's how the forests are able to be resilient over hundreds and thousands of years. So this is the program that's now inviting participants into its third year. And this is the rhythm through the year. When you apply for the in the application, you'll see the exact dates. All the dates are laid out for the Zoom calls and the full day retreats. But these are the basic time commitments. The Zoom calls are 9:30 to 11, and then the full day retreats are 10 to 5. And we begin in February of 2026. And the journey that we go through is everything I've been speaking about, but really getting started in the winter with listening deeply, focusing on yourself. Where are you? Planting your feet and reflecting on your life up until now, and then saying, how am I going to be creating space for the journey that's ahead, and what is the feeling of the journey ahead. And then phase two, the art and science of breakthrough mindsets, heart sets, health sets, and soul sets. So thinking about breakthrough as a personal journey that in phase three naturally leads to action, to engagement through emergent initiatives that take shape. So the work that we're doing, it is deeply personal, but if it's only personal, if we're not engaging, we can't help but engage when we do this work. And that's how the growth journey unfolds. So I want to pause here, and I don't want to put Beth on the spot, but I kind of do actually, and say, I'm so glad that you're here, Beth. And Beth is someone if you don't mind, do you mind if I introduce you?
Not at all. I'm so sorry to be late. I missed this in my schedule, and so,
Oh, well,
but here I am now.
here you are. Well, I want to, in a minute, I'm just going to share a couple more logistics, but I just want to say I'm so happy that Beth is here. She was in the cohort in 2024 and is now on Alliance for a Viable Futures Advisory Circle. And she was the former director of conservation at Berkshire Natural Resources Council. That's right here. And they've been a very involved organization. So I'm just thrilled. So here are the logistics. I can put this link in the chat. And I just want to invite you, if this seems like something that would bring your life into a more beautiful, positive, powerful direction, I just invite you to not think too much and just apply, fill out the application. And it's not a full commitment. You can always, it's the beginning of a conversation. I'll just say it like that. So, and then I'm just going to end with this quote here from the book Partnering. The path to living a meaningful life is through the deep connections we nurture with each other, relationships of purpose that make us who we are. They are the enduring, got your back friendships found in all aspects of our lives. These relationships help us become our best selves and multiply the impact we make in the world. So, thank you, each and every one of you, for being here, for listening. And I'm going to put this in the chat here, this link. And now I'm going to invite Beth to say a few words about whatever you feel called to share after hearing this, and about your experience and what you're doing now, and anything you feel called to share at this time.
Yeah, thanks, Lev. I'm really happy to be here. I'm sorry I missed the introductions and the centering because I don't think I have met the folks on the call. I found this work to be really helpful is a very minor way of talking about it. In many ways, for me, the timing of doing the work beginning a few years ago was really transformative in the way I think about conservation in particular, and the places that I want to put my effort in terms of the conservation work that's being done in the Northeast now, and hoping to add some ideas to shape some shifting of the way that work is being done. So participating and under Lev does a great job with leadership in bringing people together to listen to each other and creating networks. And as a result of his commitment to this and leadership in it, the partnerships, if you will, acquaintances or deeper relationships that I've built with folks who are participating have only helped guide and clarify and add to my thinking about my own work. So anyways, I've just found it to be a really great experience. It's helped to give me a foundation to lead me in the direction of some more focused and intentional work that had been floating around in my head for a long time that I wanted to do, but just hadn't really given myself the time to think it through or to embark on it. So, if
Beth, do you want to just share a minute about that specific, what is the work now?
Yeah, so I've worked in I worked in academia for quite a long time as a cultural geographer. I have an advanced degree, and I taught out on the West Coast for a while. And then I shifted the work out of academia to specific community and community conservation work, and then eventually into land trust work, mostly in New Mexico. and then finally was called to come back east to the Northeast, where my roots are, and moved back east in 2017 to the Hudson Valley. So there was this sense of wanting to connect to my place, where bring the work that I had been doing elsewhere in different parts of the world, really, back to this region. And so to support myself, I accepted a position in Columbia County with the Land Conservancy here, and then eventually moved over to work in the Berkshires, which is when I met Lev and began to engage in that work. So during that time, I was seeing, as everything unfolded, you can imagine, because you lived through it, the kind of changes that are going on around you from 2017 till now, and how your work and your goals fit in with all the things that the earth and our fellow humans and fellow other beings are asking us to do. How do we sort it out? So anyway, that's kind of a bit of the background, and I really feel like I'm going to be teaching a winter studies course at Williams on this subject of indigenizing conservation. And the idea behind it, the things I'm going to ask the students to look at and read and listen to and talk to each other about, is this idea of land as community, which I think comes, well, in a Western tradition, comes out of Aldo Leopold for sure in the conservation world, but also, is very much a part of many indigenous communities, the way they view their environment or the natural world, I guess you would say. So anyway, I'll stop. Once you open the door, Lev, I tend to go on and on, so I'll stop there. But the work with Lev and the group that he assembled for this first cohort, I still work with those people and have expanded my network of who I'm working with from that group. It's just super valuable.
Thank you so much, Beth, for being here unexpectedly, and what a pleasant surprise. And yeah, well, we have a few more minutes. If anyone wants to make a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do so. And also, I'm also available for email follow-up or phone calls, formally or informally.
Lev, what is your email then?
I'll put it in the chat. Lev at allianceforaviablefuture.org.
I think the way I see myself personally, given my other commitments right now, is just helping individual people that want to do something with their own yard to plant. They may not know how to plant, or they may think it's too difficult, whether they want to have a greenhouse or a raised bed or whatever the issues are, to get started for two reasons: to make a wildlife sanctuary, gradually, and also for their own food and the importance of that. And spirituality can come just with sharing with the individual person. I've done a lot of spiritual work on myself. I'm an artist and a Reiki master and that kind of thing. So for me, rather than being so much an organization, I would just appreciate doing that kind of thing with my time. So I guess that would be probably just getting involved with perhaps even Roots Rising, which is in Richmond. I live in Richmond in the Berkshires. If they're doing that kind of thing, I was wondering what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah. Roots Rising, the farm director from Roots Rising is in the circle, this year's
Okay.
circle. So that's certainly someone I can connect you with. And so this is definitely an organizational program. In other words, that there are people from organizations. But then we also have a number of people who, I kind of call community change makers or healing practitioners who are also in the circle as well. And so there's that fluidity and that diversity that is welcome in the circle. So just because you're not, don't have an official title in a organization, I wouldn't um, let that stop you from feeling called to participate.
Well, I notice that things are changing. And, just in general, I get the feeling that a lot of people would like to change aspects of what they see going on in the world. And I moved up to the Berkshires in 2012 because I wanted to grow our own food. And that went on maybe for 6 years, but I'm not that young. There's quite a lot of work to grow your own food, like all of your own food. But I still grow a reasonable amount of food, and I know how to grow food, and like a lot of things are not that hard. Um, and I mean, a lot of people don't even know that obviously everybody here knows, but our native bees were threatened, even by the honeybees, who I do love the honeybees. And just little things we can do, like what plant are we going to buy when we go to the gardening store? If we buy a native plant, and I guess there might have been one state, I can't remember what state it is outlawed all the other plants, but native plants, as far as what you can have for sale in the store. Um, if there was more of an emphasis on that, it would make a big difference. I mean, if we
Mhm.
have big pieces of dead wood in our yard, like a tree that we cut down, and we leave the tree there, the carpenter ants will come. And then the pileated woodpeckers will have food, you know. So it's important. Seeming little things like that are really big.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's exactly why we, invite people from all walks of life into the program because you're making me think about Smita from our Beth's cohort in 2024. Her and her husband are dear friends of mine, but also they were participants in that 2024 cohort, and is a master gardener as well. Um, and thinking about, well, what did she want to do, you know, through the course of the year of being inspired to engage, what's the next level of her engagement in the community through the work. What it was sharing, doing plant walks and helping connect people with foraging and then she connected with another woman from that year who's very focused on land acknowledgement and reconnecting with the Mohican people. And so they came together and connected with a teacher of a Mohican plant teacher. Um, so they were learning, the connection between the indigenous plants and that you can forage and the herbs here and learning the original names of the Mohican names for them and doing that in creating a community space for all of that to happen and that's still unfolding that work so so that's just people in the neighborhood and what I find is having a journey like this and having a network where people are doing things like that it takes it to a different level of kind of having a taproot say hey I'm gonna I'm gonna allow something to take root inside of me. Like this is like what you just said. If people sold native plants, then and taking those ideas and planting them in a soil of commitment and
Yes.
yeah,
I mean,
allowing
like
that.
a couple years ago, I decided that I was not going to get overly involved in 350.org because they didn't have any focus on like gardening. Like, because I think like it would solve a lot of people's problems if food was grown closer to where they lived in the community if you weren't growing it yourself rather than shipping everything, all the creation and the carbon footprint of that. So it's like a bottom up strategy rather than a top down strategy that I would like to see get more attention. So if you know any organizations that are particularly sponsoring that, I would be interested in knowing about that.
The gardening work?
Well, something that would facilitate interest in community gardening, whether it's, greenhouses, obviously, given our changing climate, is like the ultimate place to grow food these days. That,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously during World War II, everybody was into gardening at home. It's not in fashion now. But it would be nice for people that were interested to have that knowledge and even let people know that there is some help. There is a community interest in such a thing. It's hard to create a community interest in something like that if it's not there. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of elderly people in the Berkshires, for instance, that may not want to garden.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's that work is definitely happening too. And then it needs to happen more too. And people like you um can
Yeah,
take
but like
hold of it.
through what organization? So that's what I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to think about it. And then yeah,
All right,
we
thank
can
you.
stay in touch. Sounds good. Thank you, Karen. Well, it is after one. I'm happy to stay. Thank you, Mark. I know you have to take off. It's so good to see you. Um, and yeah, thank you, each and every one of you. If anyone has any other questions or anything else to say, happy to stay for another minute or two, but also happy to close up here. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming, Karen. We'll look forward to staying in touch. Great to meet you.
That's great. Nice to meet you too.